Oh my God. Listen, the funny thing was, I didn't know where to reach to make it stop. It was like, took a second. Holy cow. Let me check again, man. That is,
Oh my gosh.
oh man.
Whew, that was priceless. I'm
That's
sorry
okay.
to talk about your dad. Man.
Don't worry about it. He knows.
Red light, huh?
Yes, it is.
Oh my God.
Crime is a topic of discussion around the country, including the capital city of Louisiana. In studio with us is the chief of the Baton Rouge Police Department for a wide-ranging discussion. I'm excited about it. Roll it, Ed. He's been the chief of the Baton Rouge Police Department since 2018. We've seen a lot happen in that period of time. and we want to talk with him about it. Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul is here with us in studio. Chief, how's it going?
It's going okay. Okay, I can't complain.
Let's start with just an overall reflection of crime. Obviously, nationally, parish-wide in the city, it's at the top of people's mind right now. Just tell us where you are with what's going on.
Well, I think just like many, chiefs around the country, many communities, 2020, I don't think anyone expected that. If you go and you look back in 2018, 2019, here in Baton Rouge and other cities across America, we saw consistent reductions in crime with some of the strategies that we put in place. And I don't think anyone expected the impact that the COVID and shutting down cities and the whole country, the impact it was going to have on America, the economic hardship, the stress, the anxiety, the interruption of normalcy, and all of those things. When we no longer have court systems in place to hold individuals accountable who have been arrested for crime. Probation and parole officers can't visit those who are on probation. Domestic violence, those who are suffering, no longer have those systems in place. Kids not in school. I think all of those interruptions play in part a role on what we're seeing in America.
I heard the district attorney say at a recent meeting that we've basically had a year and a half of summer. Can you explain what that means to people who don't understand how summer coincides with spikes in violence around the country?
Yeah, and I think what he's referring to, when you look at our summer months, historically, that's when we see increases. Kids out of school, a lot of activities during the summer months, and historically we've seen some increases in violence. So I think when he's speaking of that, he's speaking of kids not in school, businesses not open, and all of those interruptions in our normalcy. So when he say those summers, I understand what he means by that. But I think historically we've seen in this city when we have significant events, that creates trauma in the community. That usually follows some increases in crime. We saw that in 2016, and then look what happened in 2017. And I think we're experiencing some of that now.
I have a little less than a minute before we take our first commercial break, but I'd like you to start this part of the discussion. What is your agency doing to address the violence in the city of Baton Rouge?
Our focus is on those individuals who are involved in violent crime. We have several strategies in place. One is our patrol strategies. We have a lot of data right now with some of the new technology that we have. And we believe that there are micro areas in the city, not just hot spots, but micro. There are 100 blocks, there are street corners, there are repeat addresses. So what we've been doing is we've been using that data to deploy assets in those particular areas at specific times.
I want to come right back to that with the chief talking about violence here, the strategy of the department. It's been a hot summer already. We'll talk about what the department is going to do as we wrap up the summer of 2021. Back with Chief Paul in just a moment. We're back with Chief Paul talking about the strategy of the Baton Rouge Police Department as they address crime here. You were mentioning micro areas and what your agency is doing. Please pick up your thought.
So with that patrol strategy, I talk about focus on those areas. You know, that's 7 days a week, about 32 times a day. We actually have specific directed patrol. Some of the areas are Gus Young, Tiger Lane, Bel Air, and Brookstown. We're actually seeing some success with that patrol strategy. Actually, double-digit success reductions in crime in those particular target areas. We've actually, because of that, actually have been in the area when violent incidents occurred, specifically a couple of shootings where we were in the area and were able to respond and make arrests and preserve evidence in those cases. So we're seeing some success with that strategy. The other strategy that we announced is our P&I, our Police Network Investigation Strategy, where we're looking at chronic violence in the city. These are areas that have consistently been violent, and how can we address those? And we're looking for the underlying crime place networks. What networks? We have a board that has been set up with multiple regulatory agencies, the business community, school.
To do what?
As well as. So what we're doing is we're looking at areas. Our target areas are Banks, Zion City, and Brookstown. And what we're looking is heavy on intelligence, where we have detectives that are specially trained right now in the intelligence gathering to look at what networks in those particular areas play in crime. For example, why do we go to one house and then a year later we're at that house again, or 6 months later we're at that house again? What are the underlying networks that contribute to that criminal behavior at that house?
But take us into that. You know, you've been doing this a very long time, and from the public standpoint, listening in from a non-law enforcement mindset, we hear the strategy at this level, but the people are here where the violence is. So when you talk about the underlying factors, what do you mean?
I'll give you a couple examples. For example, if there's loitering at a certain business, and that business, the loitering is contributing to the sale of drugs, it's engaging that business owner and being a responsible business owner. He may not know the role that that business play in the underlying. It could be an apartment complex where we continue to have repeat addresses and repeat addresses. But it's educating and awareness to that business owner, his responsibility of hardening that community with lighting, with camera systems.
Is that like broken windows, the New York theory about the linear trend of crime from lack of value in the community and how it graduates to violent crime?
It's a little more complex than that, but I understand that take care of the little things and it prevents the big things from happening. This one, I think there are networks where people don't always understand the role that these networks play. For example, it can be something as simple as high grass, a blighted property in a particular area. So addressing all of those issues, sort of taking a holistic approach, partnering with the mayor's safe and healthy,
Safe, Hopeful, Healthy
Baton Rouge initiative by pushing data to street teams that are out there addressing some of the issues when it comes to chemical dependency, drugs, violence, and trying to interrupt some of the violence. So it's really taking a holistic approach in this particular area. And I really think when you look at the mayor's Safe, Hopeful, Healthy Baton Rouge initiative, they're focusing on the prevention and the intervention piece while we're focusing on the enforcement arm.
I want to hold your thought and come back to some of the creating factors of crime, but also who's committing the crime. We'll continue with Chief Paul in just a moment. Stay right there. Back with Police Chief Murphy Paul of the Baton Rouge Police Department. We're talking about crime here in the city. Parish-wide, this year has been, well, it could be unprecedented depending on how we finish. Parish-wide, in January, there were 17 murders. 9 in February, 9 in March, 13 in April, 15 in May, 11 in June, 2 already this month. We've surpassed the third quarter of last year, the second quarter of last year already, and we're less than 10 days into the month of July. That's parish-wide, not just the city.
Right.
Specific to that is the percentage of perpetrators, mostly young African-American males who are shooting at each other in broad daylight in this town. And that is a discussion I want to have with you because it's more complicated than just they're criminals. There's so many layers to that. So let's start with it. First, what is going on with that? And then second, what are we doing about it?
Yeah, so when you look at all the strategies I talked about, right? The micro areas, the complex P&I, the technology in our real-time crime center, partnering with neighborhoods, using Peace Cop, a camera share program, all of those strategies help in fighting crime. Not one strategy is going to work. But when you specifically start talking about the demographics, look, it's young black males, our victims, and our suspects in those cases are young black males. So, you know, we have to look at what are the causes, right? We are dealing with the symptoms of crime. We have to really address the causes of crime. Crime is a socioeconomic issue. That's why when you hear me talk about the safe, hopeful, and healthy Baton Rouge, I think that has a holistic approach to the prevention and the intervention side. But we have a culture that is really complex. You know, we like to talk law enforcement in simplistic terms. Policing is a very complex profession. Yeah. Often we get the responsibility and the blame, but there are other institutions that play a role: education, family, faith, the criminal justice system as a whole. I think all of those things play in. You know, when we look at the young black males that are involved in crime, most of our shooting incidents are targeted. Yeah. They're not just random acts of violence.
And Chief, they're doing it in crowds now. The one at IHOP, the one that doesn't matter if you're in a crowd anymore.
Yeah. Today's victim, if he survived, is tomorrow's suspect. Today's suspect is tomorrow's victim.
One more time.
Yeah. Today's victim, if he survived, is tomorrow's suspect. And today's suspect is tomorrow's victim. We're seeing this retaliatory shooting involving a small group of individuals. And that's why that accountability piece is so important. What I hear from my police officers, Chief, we're dealing with the same guys over and over again. We've already arrested them before. So it's that accountability piece on those individuals who are involved in violent crime. We have to do better at that.
Now, see, I got 30 seconds before the break. I got to come back to that because that's a huge issue that we have to kind of lean in on if you're seeing the same guys over and over and over again, and then some of the root causes of this crime and what they're doing. So we're going to continue with Chief Murphy Paul here talking about crime in Baton Rouge. Stay right there. And so, just how do you impact these young men who are at the crux of all this crime in the community? You said two things going into break I want to go back to. One, you talked about some of the causes that get them there and the agencies involved and all of the areas that contribute to these young men having almost no value for life, theirs or others. And the other thing is the number of times you are seeing them a second, third, fourth time. Yeah. That's a problem. So let's start there. Why is that happening?
Well, look, we know that there's some gaps that we need to do better on in the bonds. We know of several high-profile incidents that have recently happened where the individuals had been arrested for other crimes and were out on bond, and on not just one but on two occasions that that person was out on bond. So where's that accountability piece on that?
Are you talking about from the judiciary?
I'm speaking of those involved in who set bonds for individuals who've been arrested for crimes. Where they're out on one bond, they get arrested again, and then they're out on another bond. What are the areas on that? And we're having those conversations to see what the gaps are, where the holes at, and what we can do to fix that. We're also having conversations about how do we take that information and like what's the value of life? How much is it attempted on someone's life or murder worth in terms of how these bonds are being set? That is a complex issue. That's not obviously under me as the chief of police. There are other institutions that govern that, but we are having those conversations. We have to hold these individuals accountable, and I respect the process. They have to have their day in court, but until that day in court, we have to find ways to keep that small percent that's responsible for the violent crime in jail until they have an opportunity to go to court.
We have been together in the community. I volunteer with Truce in these groups. I go and walk in neighborhoods around Baton Rouge, and I have seen interactions between law enforcement and the people who live in some of these disinvested communities. I was just in Brookstown, East Brookstown, a few days ago, and I'd like you to talk about the myth that people who live in those communities don't at all want to see cops.
Yeah, look, that's one of the biggest misinformations, lies, fake news, whatever you want to call it, that I hear. Look, when we go in these communities, the people in those communities want us there. They welcome us. They greet us with open arms. They want more police, not less police.
Yeah, I saw it firsthand.
So to hear this, that they don't want police is just not true. And I think when we look at disinvested communities, right, communities where we have higher costs for services in those areas, the socioeconomic issues in those areas, they want crime out more than we do because they live it every day.
They see it every day.
They see it every day, and they welcome us with open arms. That's why it's important when you look at the P&I strategy that I talked about and that community piece, where we're having conversations with those individuals in those communities, to not only to identify what the issues are. We need them to help us identify who the bad actors are, who that 6% is, and also engaging and empowering them to be part of the process, to not only take pride in their community, but to work with law enforcement to build evidence against those a small group of people.
I have a little less than 30 seconds before we take a break and come back for our final segment. Are you confident we can get a handle on this?
I am. I'm very optimistic. I think that, we follow trends. We follow the data, that there is some indication with some of the data that we're looking at that we may see some downward
Well, hold
trend.
your thought on that. We'll come back and wrap up with Chief Paul in just a second. Stay right there. So I wanted to make the last segment about the Baton Rouge Police Department and where it is and where it's going. Let's talk about your agency. Let's first start with morale in the department. There is all this chatter about the morale in the department, and people have been, as the kids say, at your neck about what's happening in the department. What's going on in the Baton Rouge Police Department?
Well, I think what's going on in the Baton Rouge Police Department isn't unique to the Baton Rouge Police Department. It's American policing. I think if you look at PERF just put out a study. There's been 45%, PERF, that is Police Executive Research Forum. It's a national organization, and 45% increase in resignations last year, 18% increase in retirements. That's nationally. Our turnover ratio was right around 6.4%, so those numbers are not reflective of what we're seeing. But morale is a concern. I think we started seeing that post George Floyd when a lot of the issues that were happening in America, we're starting to see, we believe, police officers not as proactive as they once were.
Why would that be?
In fear that they will make a mistake and be the next person. So all of those things that are happening in America, some of the changes with reform, some of the new training and things that we've been implementing. Look, change is hard in any organization. It's not always receptive, but it is necessary. And we're moving in the right direction, and so are the cities all across America. But when you look at the vacancies, the Sheriff Department probably has over 50 vacancies. We're right at around 90 vacancies. State Police has over 200 vacancies.
200?
That is correct. So we have to get recruitment. All of the proactive things that we do to help prevent crime, having police in the areas at the appropriate time, having the manpower to investigate crimes more timely and being more efficient in those areas. We are seeing help with technology, real-time crime center, camera share program, but we still need boots on the ground. Recruitment is so important right now. And we have an academy class going on right now.
I was going to ask you about that. How do you convince a young man or a young woman to choose the Baton Rouge Police Department and a career in law enforcement over some other area? Sure.
You continue to highlight the great work that the men and women of the Baton Rouge Police Department are doing every day. We're saving lives. We're responding. We don't always hear about the good things, but I can tell you that I'm proud of the work the men and women of this police department is doing. And you tell them you want to be that change agent, come on board. We're looking for young folks with hearts to serve. We have an academy going on now. We're preparing for our next academy. I believe that we have young people in the city, in the parish, who want to serve. We just have to meet them where they're at, and we have to show them that this is a great profession. It is a very rewarding profession. You don't always believe what you see on social media.
You were recently at the White House.
I was.
The only police chief or executive of a law enforcement agency of any kind in that group. We got about a minute. Tell us about that trip, what you learned, and how it's going to help Baton Rouge.
Well, you know, first of all, it was an honor to represent the men and women in uniform at the White House. I think the president put out a comprehensive strategy to reduce gun violence in America. But I was proud to sit there and talk about the men and women of the police department. I talked about those patrol strategies, the P&I network, our Crime Gun Intelligence Center, how we're working with ATF and our federal partners, how we're working with the FBI on some of the group violence. But to sit there and talk about the men and women, I talked about the shooting on Florida Boulevard and how our police officers were there giving first aid immediately, trying to save lives. So that was the highlight of it.
We're not going to get it all in here. You'll get you to come back. You'll come back?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thanks to Chief Paul. We'll see you next week. You guys enjoy your weekend. Stay safe out there.
Do they work? No. They'll probably just sit there, huh?
Adam, I'm going to change mics for the promo, or am I using the same one?
Hello.
Maybe on his way here already.